Okay, so now we're going to look at another flavor of a stored procedure. In our previous example, we had the departments and courses stored procedure, and all it did was run this select statement that just dumped out all the courses and procedures. You couldn't control what it did from outside. It just did its thing. Now we're going to create a stored procedure that takes an argument in. So we're going to pass in a value here, a department ID, and then we'll have it select the department name and the courses from that department, but only for that department ID. So this is a parameter or an argument coming into the stored procedure, and it's being used here in the where clause to select just the rows that we want. Very straightforward procedure. Let's go ahead and run it and see what we get. So we created it, and then we passed in department ID number 1. Okay, and that's whoops, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong panel. Here we go. Department ID is information technology, and this shows all the courses and the credit hours from that department. So very straightforward, controlling the procedure so it just produces the results from a single department. Think about how on a website you would use this to maybe list the orders for a single customer, for example. You would create a stored procedure, customer orders, pass in the customer ID, and then just select out the orders based on that customer ID. So very handy. In the next example we have down here, we create a procedure called student GPA that will return the overall GPA for a student. So here we are passing in the student ID. We select last name, first name, and then we average all the registration grade records by joining in registration. So however many sections the student has registered for, this will average out the GPA and return it. And here we are selecting the registration records just for that student. So when we run this thing, we'll create the procedure, pass in a student ID, and it works like this. Let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. So we passed in student number 11 and got Sean Kelly. Suppose I change this to student number 15. I'm just picking a number out of thin air. Run it again. And now we get Harvey Charles and his GPA, and so on. So you can keep changing the student ID here, and it will produce the GPA just for that student, along with their name, first and last names. So we're passing in a single argument here. Let's take a look at, here's an example of a stored procedure that returns a student's GPA for a given semester. So now we're passing in two arguments, the semester ID and the student ID. And down in our where clause, we're anding together the semester ID and the student ID that were passed in as arguments up here. So now we can run it and get the GPA for a student for a single semester. That would be handy in displaying the grade results for a semester. So let's go ahead and run this thing. I'm just going to run that one statement. And we get the results for that student for semester 1. You got a GPA of 2.37. If I want to see what the other semester look like that we have in our database, I can put in semester number 2 here and go ahead and run that again. And we can see he got a slightly different GPA in the second semester. So by allowing stored procedures to accept arguments, you can create a generic sort of select statement here and then specify at runtime which semester and which student you want, or what student you want up here, and so on. So it's very handy to have stored procedures that will take in what is called an in parameter, a parameter coming into the stored procedure that controls how it operates inside.